Well, yesterday I had so much fun styling my thrifted finds with all sorts of flowers and let's just say kind of bouquet inspired. But today we are going to do something a little bit different. We are going to take some of those thrifted items and we're going to make some centerpieces, either for Easter, just spring in general, however you choose. The other thing we're going to do, much requested, is once again I'm going to show how to make a 2-ball topiary out of a 1-gallon boxwood. So what do you say, Stuart?
Let's do it.
Let's do it. In this segment, no, it is not Wednesday, even though we're going to kind of do a walkabout. It is Sunday indeed. And the reason we're doing this today is because things are really starting to explode now. Every single day it changes. There's something new that has germinated. There's something new that has come up that is beginning to bud out. And so I'm going to show you a few of those things. But first, we had some really special guests just a moment ago. So thank you, Karen and Carrie, that's hard for me to say, from Rockford, Illinois, who just stopped by. They are tourists in Oklahoma City. They came by the cottage and they are the proud first signatories of my new guest book. So thank you guys so much for coming by and visiting. So Stuart, let's show people kind of what's going on this Sunday morning. It's absolutely beautiful out right now. It is cool. In the morning, it's been in, the mid to upper 30s, and then it will get up to like 66 today, which to me is just perfect garden weather. It's the perfect weather for tulips, for pansies, for violas, and for a lot of things that are just starting to bud out. It's cool, but not cold. It is still and not real windy. Okay, so let's show what's going on. So you can see over here that a lot of the pink tulips, and this, by the way, you guys, is the first wave. This was one of the mixes. It was either something called Stirs and Struts or something, or it could be Smooch. It was one of those blends from Color Blends, and it's an early blend, and it's what's coming up first. You can see some different gradations of pink. Some of them almost go orange, and I haven't decided if I like that or not. And one thing I have learned, this is a lesson learned this week, is to just reserve judgment. Because what I have found is sometimes tulip will bloom and I'm not really sure that I like its color, but then over time it subtly transforms, and what is a little bit too garish for me initially later ages a little bit into something that's absolutely beautiful, and that is where you get the complexity and the color gradients that is so great with Color Blends tulips. So I think that's really beautiful. And Stuart, in fact, let's come down this way, a way we don't typically come. And I'll point out that the ajuga is starting to green up, and I'm starting to get a few blooms, and this, every single day, the change is just really, really dramatic. There are buds on the Encore azaleas, and they are really, really what I am anticipating this year. So be careful, come down here, and I'm gonna answer a question as to why I didn't put railings here. Well, because the wrought iron railings are very, very expensive, and I just really couldn't afford to do them all. I might do it at a later date, but right now I just decided that you can kind of hold on to the wall, or you can just take another path to get to the front door. I removed some plants that didn't make it from these 2 large pots, and I think I'm going to put, I'm not sure exactly. I'm going to wait and see what is available, but it will probably be a combination of some kind of evergreen and then some kind of seasonal color that spills out. But Stuart, this is the view I wanted to capture. Look at how sweet that is. It is really, really dear, I think, and this is what you see.
There's an orange one, huh?
Yeah, there's an orange one, and like right there, I don't like that color combination, but then as they begin to age, they start doing other things. Yeah, and so if you look in the distance, what up close looks like it clashes, from a distance, it's even more beautiful. And Stuart, let's right here get maybe a close-up so that people can kind of see what that looks like.
Walk by 'em too.
Yeah, walk by them. And then actually, if you can take a break, Stuart, from that walk by, I don't want to continue. But I do want people to know that it actually starts down here. Okay, so I'm just bossing you around, I know, but it actually starts down here. And then next year, if I have an evergreen in here and some seasonal color, this will be part of the display too. And in fact, it may still be once I get these planted. I just haven't gotten around to it. We've been kind of busy around here. So you can see how there is just this wonderful line, kind of a blooming alley, if you will, one-sided alley that cascades up and down the brick wall. Now here I want to point out just a couple of changes I'm going to make. And by the way, I cannot speak highly enough of the better boxwood. My little villages are growing up. In fact, in short order, they will really be mature and I'll have to transplant some of them. But look at this, Stuart. Look at all of that new growth. And I believe this is heritage. But I mean, look at that. Look at how profuse and dense that new growth is. And in fact, for all of the boxwood, this one boxwood ball up here, this large one, this is wintergreen, and you can see that this is wintergreen boxwood. This is one I brought from the other house. And you can see it's got lots of new growth on it. But a comment on all the boxwood. Typically by now I've already started to prune it into tighter forms, but I'm not wanting to do that this year because I want all of it to put on maturity and get as large as possible, as large a profile as possible before I start to doing some pruning. And I'm okay with that because I love all of the glistening green foliage. I'm gonna do a little bit of revision on the apple blossom roses, which I have talked about before. This one is going to be relocated, so it's not in here, kind of squished in between these two boxwood and the larger boxwood. It won't have room to really do its thing and be absolutely beautiful to cascade, and so it will get moved and relocated. I'm thinking right now I may relocate it from here to there and then relocate that sunshine ligustrum. I'm not sure at this point. I've got lots of time to do that. I've got all of spring to do that. And I just keep interrupting, Stuart, your passage up and down this walk. The Obsession Nandinas, they're putting on all sorts of beautiful new growth. And I think that the color echo between the apple blossoms and these Nandinas, these Obsession Nandinas, will really be beautiful. Here's an example of some of the later blooming tulips that are just kind of getting started. Some of them literally have just erupted from the soil, like this one. Some are even smaller than that. So there'll be another whole wave of tulips to come. And in the distance, can you see those little shoots there, Stuart?
I can.
Those will eventually be huge ambassador alliums, and I think they'll be spectacular. And then as you kind of round the corner, what I'm trying to give you guys is a kind of a bird's eye view, or a view of what pedestrians see when they walk by the cottage. At this point in time, it will continue to morph. So you see all of these, and then you round the corner, and you see all of these on the corner, And then begins the violas and the pansies. And I'm not sure, next year I might switch up my color palette a little bit. I did not anticipate these pinks would erupt so early. In the past, I've done whites that were the early bloomers, and I think next year I may replicate that. But again, I don't know how much of this is the tulip blend, the tulip variety, and how much of it is Mother Nature. So I'm just holding off my judgment on that. And Stuart, if you don't mind, from there you can kind of see that it's fun because the tulips bloom in both directions. No matter which way you walk, you still can appreciate them growing up and down the brick wall. And something else that I have really tried to be patient about, and finally we got some rain this week, hallelujah, and it has created another key component to the whole spring tableau, and that is I wanted green grass. And finally the rye has really kicked in thanks to the rain, some sunshine, and that Milorganite. And in just a few days, it will almost be solid green. So I think that'll be really, really beautiful. And then if you walk this way, again, if you're just a pedestrian, you can see all the way up to the front. You can start seeing the shining golden orbs of the ligustrum. And you can indeed see that the tulips in the window box have gotten a lot taller. And before you know it, ooh, look back that way. Look at how those are backlit by the eastern sun. But before you know it, this will be completely filled with green and grays, and all in different heights. Right now, it still looks a little bit winter bare, but that is going to change very, very quickly. Every single day, things mature, and pretty soon it will be a full-blown garden. Right now, it's still got that kind of kindergarten garden feel because so much is yet to come. But look at all, if you I don't know if, Stuart, can the camera,
pretty close, yeah.
Can the camera capture just how beautiful the boxwood looks as it starts shooting out its new green?
Yeah, I'd say so. It's very colorful this morning.
It's very Easter baskety, I think. And I think it's a nice welcome. I think it's a nice welcome to the front of the cottage. And we'll probably about end it here. I'll go over more things in detail on the Wednesday walkabout, but I did want to give you guys an idea of how much things have changed just since last Wednesday. The pots are really filling out. I think they look absolutely beautiful. And well, let's just say, like the young gal who came by yesterday and she backed up and she said, I just have to tell you that this just makes me smile and makes me so happy. I can't walk by it enough. So that's what I'm trying to accomplish, and hopefully we've been at least partially successful. So now let's go back inside because I've got some other projects that we need to tend to. Well, I am going to make something of a mess here, but it will be easy cleanup because I got one of these, it's kind of like a miniature tarp, and what I love about it is it snaps at the corners, so it will contain whatever your mess is, and then you can just transport it outside. You can kind of dump out your debris, but I am going to unsnap these ones in the foreground so you can see what it is that I'm doing. So if yesterday I said that some of the best bang for your buck you can get in the florist department was using lilies, then I would say this time of year in your nurseries and garden centers, sometimes I think I got these at Walmart, you can find very, very inexpensively forced bulbs. So talk about bang for your buck. I used to do this myself, and I never had as much success as I have had when I just drive. When I just drive to my nursery and I get them there, and I don't have all the mess, and I don't have to keep checking on them. Now, I in no way am wanting to dissuade any of you from doing it. I just don't have the capacity to as easily do it as I once did. Okay, so what's my investment? So for a little 2x2 inch pot, it was $1.48 for this little pack of gray hyacinths. And in this one 2x2 pot, there are 4 bulbs that have been forced. So obviously you just multiply that 4 by 4, and I will have 16 blooming bulbs in this arrangement that I'm getting ready to put together. Now, I did something very, very similar in technique by using a basket, and this is one of the thrifted baskets that I got on our thrifting adventure. Do you recognize it, Stuart?
I love those wooden eggs.
The other day, and then all I did was I put it on another thrifted find of mine, which is a wood cake plate to elevate it, though obviously you don't have to do that. So how did I do it in a basket? Well, I just put in a plastic bag as a liner. I nestled all of these pots into that plastic bag. I didn't take them out of their containers at all. That will kind of contain the mess. And then I used some shredded paper that had come in some kind of something or other that I got, and this was the packing. Whenever I get really good material like this, I save it. So this was in this kind of buff color, which I love, but recently I got some in this crinkly white, and then I also have some in a crinkly black. So when you get this, just put it in a Ziploc bag or something and save it for, I don't know, for arts and crafts like I just did. So I didn't really have to camouflage much. I just tucked in all of this buff colored grass, and then I got some of these wooden Easter eggs. I like them in their natural state, and I like the fact that I can keep them from one year to the next. And then of course these sweet, sweet little blue blossoms I just think look adorable and scream spring. Now a couple of other things that I did. I had some dried wax leaf flowers. You know me, if I can get some additional use out of something, I won't discard it. And I let some of the buds on my bouquet of wax flowers that I got at Trader Joe's, I let them dry, and then I stuck them in here because it almost looks, I think anyway, as if it is growing in the wild or growing in someone's garden or on the prairie. Now, Stuart's mistakenly, but very understandably, thought these were bluebonnets because we are kind of near bluebonnet country. We're kind of near the hill country in Texas, and that's my question of the day. If you guys hail from the beautiful, beautiful hills and the hill country in Texas, please let us know. Yes, deep in the heart of Texas. And if those bluebonnets are blooming now or getting ready to, please let us know, because it is something to put on your bucket list. If you have never seen it, well, let's just say you simply must. But these grape hyacinths, I think they kind of replicate that look, so it can be nostalgic in that way, but I think it looks very, very sweet. And then I had a raffia carrot, and later on, when it gets closer to Easter, maybe I'll have a raffia bunny or something like that. But this entire arrangement cost me practically nothing. I think I used 6 of these, so 6 times $1.50. Well, you figure that out. I have about, what's that, Stuart? About $8 or so in terms of the flower material. The basket, I think, cost me about $3. The raffia, the grass, cost me nothing, and you can get, gosh, I don't know, I'll put a link below. I bought a whole bunch of these last year from a thrift store, and I think, or not a thrift store, but from a craft store, and they were practically nothing. So I think you can make something that is very, very nature-inspired spring for a centerpiece for your spring table or for your Easter table. Now, you can do that same thing, and you can take the same principles and the same flowers and style them a little bit differently. So I love the way these galvanized containers look. I got the large one actually as a gift from a friend of mine, and then at a thrift store I found 2 more bowls. This one actually is that very expensive nambe that you can get. It's very, very pricey. Stuart's looking at me like he didn't know that. But I found this at a thrift store. This one obviously was washed or something because the patina isn't that real shiny silver. And then here is another one.
Can you polish that one?
I could probably polish it, but because I want it to match this one, which is not nambe, I kind of like them all in a trio, in triplicate, to kind of harmonize with one another. So I made one small little galvanized dish. I think this is very, very dear by just taking one of these pots. I didn't leave it in its container. I went ahead and kind of spread it around because the height of the pot was a little bit taller than the height of the container, and I wanted it to lie flush. So all I did was put it in there, kind of squish it around. I did put a piece of plastic on the bottom to protect the container, and then I just took some moss that I had saved from a previous arrangement, waste not, want not, and I just mulched, covered it in that moss, and I think it looks very, very dear. And then when I'm out walking, I'm always looking for things to harvest and to forage, and on your table you could do something with some, I think these are like little pine cones or something. They look like pine cone whippets to me, but you could decorate your little container, which is very, very sweet, I think, in that same way. So how did I do it? Same thing, but I tell you what, let's take a break first. Now, I'm doing the same thing with this larger container, and I've got just some clear plastic wrap that I am putting on the bottom because I want to protect it. And then these 2 I'm going to take out of their container because once again, I want them to be able to fit in here seamlessly. 4 of them fit almost perfectly, but they still would have been a little too tall for the pot. So these I am going to take out. I've watered them really, really well. And by the way, when you buy these from whomever you source them, make sure that some of them are not in full bloom. You want to make sure that the buds are relatively new and have a lifespan, and they're not just about to expire just as you get your arrangement in place. So here we go. This is very, very quick work. Look at those beautiful roots. And again, waste not, want not, because when these are finished, what will I do? I will plant these all out in the garden, right along Lemon Lane, tucking them in between the Lemon Lime Nandina and the Miss Lemonabilia and the Golden Feverfew, I have said ad nauseum, because that's my vision. I also want to make sure that when I put them in place, that they are arching in the direction that I want them to arch. And in most cases, I want them to kind of arch outwards rather than inwards. So you can see here, 4 fit perfectly. Okay, now if you don't have these kind of containers, any bowls will do, any ceramic bowls, thrifted or not. Get a cereal bowl. And do it. Get a basket. Any kind of container will do. I like footed things in particular because I always like things that are elevated. But really, you do it your way, I'll do it my way, and I'm sure they'll both be beautiful. And now all I'm going to do is just tuck this moss. And I've moistened it a little bit. I don't want it to be too soggy. I feel very much like Klaus Dalby doing this, because these are the kind of things that they do so well in Scandinavia. And I would say this in our defense, one of the reasons that we don't do a lot of it here is, first, the availability of this readily available plant material. But the other thing is, because of our weather, things just don't last that long. They could put these outside, or they could put them in a cool location, and I think they would endure for a little bit longer than they would here. Or that's my excuse anyway for not doing more of them. And because I only have so much surface area, and I can only gift so many and have so many about in my home. Okay. I think this is really lovely. And then what I will do is I will not drench this in water again, because there is no drainage in this bowl. What I'll probably do is just give it a little spritz to moisten that moss a little bit more, and also to get these to settle in. And I think that's very, very sweet. And I like the way it looks, and I like the fact that I've got two. And then here's another question of the day. I've got 3 bowls. What would you put in this 3rd bowl to complete my little trio? Let's take a break, and when we come back, I'll show you kind of how I style them. Okay, pretend, if you will, that Hubs and I are getting ready to have dinner or breakfast or something, and this beautiful arrangement is the centerpiece for said breakfast or dinner. Now, obviously, I know you will say, how can you see each other? How can you serve anything on here? It would be removed. If for no other reason, then probably this Easter grass would flame on if it got too close to these candles. So I would remove it, leave the candles in place, and then obviously when we are not eating, it will be very, very pretty, very, very seasonal, I think, right here. And the other thing that I did was just embellish it a little bit with some of the things that I made earlier. You may recall in, golly, I don't remember how long ago it was, Stuart, that I made a couple of these wreaths out of weeping willow whips. And I don't know, you can kind of play with them. You could put them flat like this and kind of, you could embellish them a little bit more, zhuzh them up a little bit more, and it would kind of look like a bird's nest, something like that. At any rate, I think it's kind of dear, and this is how I would use it to adorn my table. Let's move on to the next one. Now, earlier, I put some of these grape hyacinths into what is a lot more masculine looking, or a lot more contemporary. It almost looks like a bowl that would be part of a mono and a metate, a Native American mono metate. But I think it's very, very pretty. And once again, I used a different kind of packing material. In this case, it's a straw-like seltzer, and I think it looks very, very festive here. And I also like the way it looks because I'm getting a twofer, because it's reflected in the mirror, and it is here to greet my guests when they come inside. And lastly, the table right in front of my window, where I often serve tea or whatever kind of beverage I have when I have guests over. This will kind of, I think, put them in the mood for spring. So I've got my galvanized bowls right here, and I think they look sweet, especially with a 3rd bowl that's got some of these dark chocolate treats in it. My next guest is a dark chocolate lover, and I think she will like having it with her cup of tea. She's going to be coming over tomorrow, so I think it's kind of fun. And maybe when she leaves, I may have to gift her with one of my little ensembles. So there you go, what you can do with just 1 flat of grape hyacinths. Well, as promised, let's transform a 1-gallon boxwood into a 2-ball topiary. But first, So many of you very kindly inquired about my wrist yesterday, and no, I do not have carpal tunnel, and I did not hurt my wrist, but I did get a shot, a cortisone shot in my elbow because I have golfer's elbow. And interestingly enough, who knew, my doctor told me that actually what I need to immobilize is my wrist to take pressure off of that tendonitis area and not the elbow itself. I'd been wearing an elbow brace, but that wasn't cutting it. So for a period of time, I'm going to have to wear this carpal tunnel wrist brace that will keep it immobilized so that I can't do whatever movement I was doing that caused the tendonitis in the first place. So thank you for your concern. Thank you for asking. And now on to Topiary. And thankfully it is in my left hand and not my right hand, which is what I used to clip my Topiary. Okay, so recently I went to Lowe's and I got 3 1-gallon Green Mountain boxwood. They were $9.98, and more importantly, they had great potential. So look at these. Okay, see how you can kind of see a ball form? And then there's these projectiles, these vertical branches that just come up and break the profile of the circle. Same thing here. Now, why is that important? Because it is these long branches that are going to make the top ball of this double ball topiary. Now, what I'm going to do this time is a little bit different than what I have done in the past. Now, traditionally, my topiaries have been, see if you can follow me here, ball, stem, ball. Okay, there was a space in between the top ball and the bottom ball, or in the case of a triplicate, there's space between the top ball, the middle ball, and the bottom ball. Okay, this time I want to do a profile of something that I have seen in a number of different gardens that I really, really like, and that is the top ball sits directly on top of the bottom ball. There is no space in between. It's just like a tennis ball that is resting on a bowling ball. And that's what I'm trying to achieve. Now, why these are really good for that is because typically when I am making a 2-ball topiary, I would look for one single stem that then could grow vertically for the top ball so that it would create that gap, that kind of negative space in between the top ball and the bottom ball. In this case, I don't need to worry about that one single tall stem because I just want a ball to fill out as quickly as possible. And that's why these are good candidates, because there are multiple stems that I can just kind of secure together, and that will make that top ball fill out that much faster because all of these will be snipped and all of them will then put out additional growth, which will speed up the development of that top one. Okay, so here is one that I have already done, and I am going to do one, I promise. And you can see, we'll get some close-ups for you, but you can see how I went ahead and snipped the bottom section to really define the bottom ball. The top ball consists of 3 different vertical stems that I have secured loosely with twine. Over time, I won't even have to have that twine in place. Over time, I won't have to have the twine in place. I made a rhyme. But I will continue snipping this and snipping all of these so that it fills out very, very quickly. And where I'm going to get the speed is because some of these will start being snipped and then they will grow out. Remember, for every one I snip, I get 2 branches, and 3 branches will do that much more quickly than 1 branch, and before you know it, I will have a top ball that sits on the bottom ball. Does that make any sense at all? Okay, so let's do another one. So I'm going to move this out of the way. I know sometimes when I do topiary, it's kind of hard to see the profile. So some of these, we may need to put a whiteboard or something behind it, Stuart. And by the way, this is that kind of, March is seasonal schizophrenia month. And that's because it just can't decide whether or not it's spring or it's winter. So in the morning, it is cold enough to have a fire in the fireplace. But by this afternoon, it's going to be light jacket weather. And this is just my kind of weather. And it's my kind of weather because it's the best garden kind of weather, the greatest gardening weather. Okay, so I digress. Let's move on. So which one do I want to work on? Okay, this one, notice here, I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 projectile branches, projectile stems. Now, which ones do I want to keep and which ones do I want to sacrifice? Well, here is a guide. In this case, I am wanting to keep the ones that are pretty much growing up in the middle. Now, these are the tallest ones. Can you see that? These are the tallest ones, but notice how they're kind of growing to the side. These are growing just about smack dab in the middle. If I tried to keep all of them and move these over this way, I could do it, but it might look a little smushed and it might be a little bit more difficult. So in this case, I think I am going to lose these two. Now you'll say, but this is kind of leaning. And yes, it is. But you know what? I can correct that when I pot it just by torquing the plant in the pot itself a little bit in that direction. So I'm going to go ahead and snip these off. And this part, Stuart, we can feel free to speed this up if we need to, because this will take some time and some assessment. So after I do it, I'm just constantly assessing what it is I'm doing. Okay, so this one is tall. So firstly, I am going to establish the ball on the bottom. And I am just making the cuts to do so. And in this case, I'm kind of cutting in between the leaves, but I wouldn't necessarily have to, and as these get bigger, I won't have to do that at all. And by the way, these are just tabletops, you guys. I'm going to lift it up so I can see. And when you do topiary, don't expect the form to be perfect right away. Does it break my heart to cut off some of this fresh new growth? Yes, yes it does. But one must suffer for one's topiary.
You gotta reveal the sculpture.
You got to, I have to reveal the topiary within. Okay. And notice that when I do this, it's not letting me bend my wrist, which is what caused my problem before. Okay, so. And what I like about Green Mountain boxwood, I can't wait to do this with better boxwood, by the way. But what I like about Green Mountain boxwood is it tends to kind of grow in this form anyway, in addition to just being tough. So, okay, audience, can you see kind of what I'm doing here?
Indeed.
Yes?
We shook our heads. I guess they can't see us shake our heads.
That was a pretty tepid response. Could I get a little bit more enthusiasm? Okay, you guys out there, could I hear a resounding yes? Yes, I can see it. Geez, what does it take to get a little enthusiasm around here? Okay. Now, shall it stay or shall it go now? Okay, this is what I'm deciding. Okay, so can you, now, is that looking a little bit more defined, you guys?
Yes.
Thank you. Thank you, Stuart. Now, so I talked a little bit about, so see how this is kind of, it's kind of leaning, the leaning topiary. Okay, I can correct that when I put it in the pot, and I'm going to show you what I mean. So I'm going to take this out of this planter, out of this plastic pot and put it in this pot. Now this is going to be a little bit above soil level, but by the time that I loosen that root ball, which I'm not going to do right now because it would get my brace dirty, by the time I loosen that root ball, then it will sit at the same level as the top of the pot. And when I plant it, see, if I plant it this way, it's still leaning. So don't let your plants boss you. What I can do when I actually plant it after I loosen the root zone is I can plant it a little bit on its side. And voila, now it is straighter, is it not? Mm-hmm. Now, and in this case, gosh, I take such abuse, you guys.
Shake my head.
Okay. Now, in the previous one, let me show you. It's been a day already, you guys. In this one, I used some twine to secure it because I really wanted them to kind of be a little bit tighter. They were, in other words, one was growing this way, one was growing that way, and one was growing that way, and I wanted them to be bunched together. In this instance, these guys already are growing in close proximity. So I don't have to worry about that so much. So I may not secure these at all, and I might just go ahead and start the ball. So by starting the ball, what that means is I am just going to prune this top section. And already you can see how this one is going to sit kind of directly on top of, can you see that? It's going to sit almost directly on top of the bottom ball. Cute. Then by continually clipping this, I am forcing new growth. And I will say that probably by the end of this growing season, I'm going to have a pretty formidable second ball on top. And it's just a matter of time. And if you do not believe me, Stuart, right here, let's show an image of some that I have created long ago, not in the same form, but I have created long ago that were indeed multiple ball topiaries. So there you go. The trick to it is identifying the plant at the nursery from the get-go. The second is determining which you want to keep and which you want to lose in the formation of the bottom ball and the top ball. And then after that, it is just maintaining those two forms by consistent and judicious trimming. So there you go. That is how you transform a 1 gallon topiary or a 1 gallon boxwood into a 2-ball topiary in short order. And if I had purchased this at a nursery or at a florist, it would have cost me substantially more than it cost me by paying just $9.98 at Lowe's. So there you go. I hope that made sense to you. If it did not, please make sure to shoot me some questions below, or better yet, at the end of this video, we will put up a link to a playlist of all things topiary, of the topiary tutorials that I have done in the past. But wait, I know you guys are going to ask me about the links and where I got certain things. Okay, number one, I think I told you that protective mat that has snaps that secures the corners of it in place. We will put the link to that below. We will also put the link, because I know you will ask, to this absolutely wonderful table. I love this, you guys. I love these kinds of mobile campaign-like furniture that have that look that I like so much, and that I can easily transport from inside to outside, and I can use them in so many different ways, styled in so many different ways. This one, I believe, came from Indonesia. It reminds me very much of the ones that I saw in Bali, and in fact, when I got it and unpacked the box, it was all dusty and everything. And just, if you order one, just know know that that might be the case and open it outside, that didn't bother me a bit because then I knew from whence it came. And I love the way it looks. I love the slatted surface on the top. I love the fact that it's got like bamboo binding or weaving around the edge, and I really, really like that. And again, it just conflates, deflates, and you can easily transport it from one place to another. My outfit of the day, we'll just go right into this segment. My earrings, I also bought online, and I think for what I paid for them, they're just classic. I've been wearing them a lot lately. My top is thrifted. I actually got this in the men's section because I like the oversized look. My breeches were thrifted. I think they were Calvin Klein's. My boots are Red Hunter boots. Could not live without them. And I believe, oh, and Leah's pointing to my wristband. Yes, my wrist brace. I love this about my doctor. When I went to see her, she gave me the shot and she said, and you need to wear a wrist brace. She said, now I can sell you one, which will be very expensive, or you can get one overnighted to you on Amazon for a fraction of the price. And I appreciated her telling me that. So we will, if you suffer from carpal tunnel or some of the same tendonitis type issues that I do, we will put that link too. So there you go. I wanted to make sure that you guys had the sources for all of these indispensable tools in my life right now.